Tonight, Central Oregon Daily in Focus. There are many variations of the saying, give someone a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach someone to fish and you feed them for life.
Tonight, Alan Martin is here to tell us about a program that's teaching veterans a lot more than just fishing. Alan?
Indeed, Alan and Genevieve, I got to spend some time learning how this program called Project Healing Waters Fly Fishing teaches veterans how to tie flies, build their own fly rod, and of course how to fly fish. But I soon discovered there's a lot more going on just under the surface. There's a time for fishing, and there's a time for healing. Here on the Fall River, it's time for a convergence.
And then we'll put something heavy because we want to get it on the bottom, and then off of that we're going to have a 3-fly rig.
Rigging up for fly fishing is a group of Central Oregon veterans, volunteers and participants in the Veterans Rehabilitation Program called Project Healing Waters Fly Fishing.
Really found the zen in tying flies and found the zen in fly fishing. So it's been a really healthy outlet for me.
Danny Leifer got involved because coming out of the Marines was tough for him. Really tough.
I was having a really rough transition back from the Marine Corps. Had a lot of combat experience, and that transition back to civilian life was brutal on me. Yeah, I needed something for my mind to focus on.
Val Wadsworth runs Ben's Project Healing Waters program.
What we can do is we can bring them out to be with other veterans who understand them and doing things that are not only fun, but takes you out of nature. It's kind of that zen of being along the river.
Project Healing Waters is a national nonprofit that started in 2005, and with 200 chapters across the country, offers free of charge year-long lessons in fly casting, fly tying, and fly rod building. Then the fishing trips like this outing on the High Desert's Fall River.
Especially have a nymph that's driving along the bottom.
There's a saying, there's no such thing as a perfect cast. There are only casts that catch fish and casts that do not. With Project Healing Waters, it's all about getting these veterans down on the water here and casting, sometimes with flies that they've tied themselves. Which brings us to the Project Healing Waters fly tying class. Bruce Wilhite is the instructor. Once a Navy SEAL, now an avid fly fisherman with a band of brothers mentality.
Kind of giving back a little bit, but it's just nice that camaraderie you get that you don't normally have in your civilian jobs. Yeah. Because you can walk on the room and something will be some like experiences.
Randy Miller, a Marine who saw action in Operation Desert Storm, says that for him, it's like being back in the fleet.
Guys talk, we talk, and there's not a lot of, the barriers aren't there that some people seem to experience. It's just a lot of times non-existent. It doesn't take long to talk about things that you don't normally discuss.
Val, who was once a participant in the program, says it can be essential therapy for veterans who struggle.
Well, if you think about the number of veterans that we lose every year to suicide, a lot of that has to do with isolation. So if we can identify veterans who are isolated, and they generally don't want to be isolated, but they don't necessarily feel comfortable coming out in the civilian population, but you bring them together with other veterans, and they're very comfortable.
Bruce knows it too.
And then just to get with them and just nymph and just get that first tug and they go, oh, now I get it, now I get it.
But why tie flies? Why not just go to the fly shop and buy some?
And the only reason I think we're in here fly tying, if I'm being honest about that, is because it's winter.
Once these veterans have a few flies that they've tied themselves, the proof, of course, is out on the water with a fly rod in their hand and high hopes for healing.
This is the closest thing that I've experienced to flow, I think, since combat.
And yes, they do catch fish.
You have all these variables and this convergence of so many different aspects, and feeling the weight of the rod, feeling the weight of the line.
And a fish like that.
Oh, that's the most exciting part.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness, I love it.
You wish it could be you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. Just as soon as Danny picked up his fly rod and got back to the river, fish on. Well, how's it feel when a guy like Danny behind you hooks up and catches a fish?
It makes me feel great. And the only thing that could be better if he was one of our veterans that we taught to tie flies,
and we taught him to build his own rod, and he put those 3 together and caught that fish.
That's the ideal, right? The trifecta.
That's ideal.
And hopefully providing a lifeline that will last a lifetime. On the Fall River, Alan Martin, Central Oregon Daily News. So the reason that the program shut down and it had to restart primarily because of COVID. You know, the meeting virtually just didn't really work for them. Volunteers kind of moved on to some other things, but as you can see, it's restarted. It's helping about 40 veterans right now, and they have 7 or 8 volunteers, but they can use more.
40, big number.
Yeah, so how can people help?
We made it pretty simple. So what we did is if you can go to our website, you can look for this story there. CentralOregonDaily.com is our website, and then look for the Project Healing Waters link, and there you go. They'll set you up.
Absolutely tremendous cause. Looks
It's
like
a
a great
effort.
program.
Yeah, it is.
Very
Good
cool.
stuff. All right. Thanks, Alan, and thank you. We'll be right back.